If you're planning to move to Italy, one of the most important things that you have to do is find a place to live. So I wanted to give you some tips based on my own experience as someone who moved from the US to Italy 5 years ago, and I've rented 2 long-term apartments here in Turin. So in this video, I'll give you a quick overview of the process of renting an apartment in Italy, including where and how to find properties available to rent, all of the fees and deposits that you should expect to pay before moving in, and I'll show you a few things you can look out for to avoid getting scammed. First, we'll talk about where to look for apartments. 2 sites primarily that I've used. The first one is Idealista. The second one is called Immobiliare. There are short-term and long-term rentals listed. There is a messaging feature, but the best way to reach most agencies is to call them directly. So one thing you should know is that the housing market, especially in major cities in Italy, but even in smaller towns, from what I've heard, it's very tight. It's very competitive. You really need to be on the ground in Italy, ready to go see the place as soon as you see it listed. There are too many people looking for housing, and if you're not here on the ground, or if you don't have someone here to look at the place for you, I don't see how it would be possible to find a place. There are so many scams out there, so I would not trust putting down any deposits or signing anything if you haven't personally seen the place. There are a lot of, scammers who will have you wire them money. They will send you video tours of a place, and then you show up and they ghost you and they disappear forever. So don't fall for those scams. You have to budget in some extra couple of months for Airbnbs or some short-term housing situations so that you can find a place. There are sites that are geared more towards student rentals and shorter-term rentals. Those include Housing Anywhere, Spot a Home. Another one I've seen is Studaport. Those sites are really great because you can search for full apartments or just rooms for rent. But again, those are usually short-term rentals. And for student rentals, you have to show that you have enrollment at a university or some other proof that you're a student. You also will have to speak some Italian. Even in the major cities, you can't rely on agents to speak English. And if you do find one, agencies will only show you their listings. You don't want to be limited just by the agent who happens to speak English. You want to make as many contacts as possible because, again, it's very difficult. It took me 8 or 9 months to find an apartment. I looked at places that were rented by friends of friends. I looked at private listings, Facebook groups, agencies. You really can't limit yourself. You have to make some concessions. You can't expect to get everything you want unless you have a ton of time on your hands to find a place. So when you find a property that you're interested in renting, you will tell the landlord or the agent that you want to make a formal proposal. If you're dealing with just a landlord one-on-one, it could be just a verbal proposal. And this is where you would maybe try to negotiate if you want to offer less than the asking price for rent. But if you're dealing with an agent, you would make the proposal to the agent, and then the agent would bring that proposal to the landlord. The proposal is a formal written contract, basically. You'll submit all your documents to them, your financial documents and your ID and everything. So this is all the information that they'll take to see if you're qualified to rent the place. And at that point, they may ask you for a small deposit. This is something that was different to me, and it felt a little bit like a scam because I wasn't signing a lease or anything. I hadn't been approved for the apartment. This was just basically to apply for the apartment. But it is normal here. It will be part of the agency fee or maybe the first month's rent. And whatever that amount is, it will go towards whatever your deposit or the agency fee is if you get accepted to the apartment. If the landlord doesn't accept your proposal, then you should get that money back. So you should get a receipt for it. You should have a signed document that states how much you gave and what will happen to that money. But if the landlord accepts you and says, yes, I want you to rent the place, and you just change your mind and decide, no, I don't want it anymore, then you forfeit that deposit. So I think the reason for it is to make sure you're serious about renting the place and you're not going and making proposals all over town and then withdrawing them once you got the one you liked. So it is a little frustrating because if you make a proposal, they have some time. I think they have 7 days to bring that proposal to the landlord, and then the landlord will get back to you saying yes or no to your proposal. Basically, if you're making a proposal, you should really, really want that place. Otherwise, they want to keep showing it and renting it to someone else. When I was doing the process for the first time, the deposit amount she asked for was half of the first month's rent. So it made me a little bit nervous, but this is the part where you have to do your due diligence and make sure that the agent is legit. If they have a website, if they have reviews from other clients that have said good things about them, if they document everything and give you a receipt and you have a paper trail for it, then you're probably not being scammed. But if they are demanding that you pay them cash, if they refuse to give you a receipt, if they're asking you for money before they even show you a property, I would definitely run. Use your best judgment, and at that point, you just have to go with your gut feeling. And if it really, really feels bad and it feels like a scam to you, move on to the next agent. And if you don't feel comfortable making that kind of deposit during the proposal process, then keep trying, because not everyone asks for it.
Another thing you should make sure to be aware of and to budget for is the rent listed is usually not the total that you'll be paying. If you're on Immobiliare, you'll see if you scroll down through the listing, at the very end, there's a section where it shows you how much the deposit will be and how much the spese cost is. And spese, like condo fees, it's kind of like similar to HOA, but it doesn't change over the course of your lease. It will be the same. Usually it's between 50 and I've seen up to 150, 200 a month extra beyond your rent. So you want to make sure to take that into account, make sure that it's part of your budget, and it's always listed in the rental listing. And in addition to those fees, the agency will charge a fee. So a lot of people will try to avoid working with agencies because they don't want to pay the agency fee, which I don't blame them. It's very expensive. The agents will charge from 1 to 2 months rent. You don't get that back. I can understand if you can't afford it, but really, at least in my city, in Turin, like 80% of listings are through agencies. So you're just limiting yourself a lot if you don't want to pay any agency fees. I think my first agency fee for my first apartment was 1.5 times the rent. The second time around, it was 2 times the rent.
Even if you are reluctant to pay the agency fee and you think it's really high, the agency helps with the process of negotiating the lease and helping to register the lease, which I know most people need for a visa. So it's useful to have an agent just for that reason, and they might sometimes help also afterwards if you have problems with the property. But every landlord I've dealt with directly with the landlord or their designated property manager.
In addition to the agency fee, of course, there's a deposit. That is something you do get back at the end of your lease, unless you do some severe damage to the apartment or something like that. So the deposit is usually 1 to 2 months times the rent as well. So when you're moving into a long-term rental, and even for short-term rentals, you have to factor in that with all those fees, you'll be paying up to 5 or even 6 months of rent before you even move in. And that includes first month's, 2 months deposit, and the agency fee. For me, it was 5 months rent that I had to pay to move into my place. It's kind of a lot to know what to expect when you're looking for apartments. A lot of people don't know about agency fees. There are some sort of scam agencies that try to charge you a fee to look at the apartment. Real agencies will not charge you to view apartments. The only time you pay is if you made an offer, a proposal to get an apartment.
If any of that's unclear and you still have questions about the deposit and the different types of fees involved, please leave your questions in the comments. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing and liking and all the things to support my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.